Welcome everybody to Dashcon. Dashcam was a crowdfunded Tumblr themed convention designed by Tumblr users for Tumblr users. The hype was real. Getting hardcore celebrities in there like Benedict Cumberbatch and live music from bands such as the steam-powered Giraffes involved, this was indeed going to be an event that everybody would love. Except it was nothing like that whatsoever and was nothing but a huge disappointment. Getting close to 500 people and featuring practically nothing that was promised, plus this was the ball pit that several thousand people were expected to use and someone supposedly did a big old piss in it. Yes, we've all seen videos on the biggest crowdfunding failure based on Tumblr before, right? If not, I'll leave some details below, and hey, if you really want a proper deep dive into this thing, then maybe I'll cover it myself in the future, but for right now, we're going to be looking at several other Tumblr-based crowdfunding scams the Slopes Game Room way. That's right. It's Kick Scammer time! The show where I take several terrible Kickstarters, Indiegogos and GoFundMes based around certain subject matters, condense it all down into a nice little extra large bite-sized chunk and regurgitate it all back to you. And today's subject matter is Tumblr. People that used Tumblr as a stepping stone to bring home the cash, crowdfunding style. Today's set of 4 examples are no doubt going to be leaving my audience with a very mixed set of emotions. All I ask is that you be kind to one another and respect each other's views, each other's opinions, beliefs and way of life. Seriously, it will all make sense in just a bit, as you watch probably the most controversial set of 4 that I've ever showcased in one video. Hi everybody, I'm DJ Slope, aka Daniel Robertson from Slope's Game Room, and this is the weird world of crowdfunding Tumblr scams. Oh boy, is this one weird. What a way to start an episode. So how many people out there know of or have seen Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton? You know what I'm talking about. Disney Plus's most recently highly rated movie. No, it's not a movie, is it, Mr. Oscar? Oh, no. Regardless, Hamilton the stage show, perfectly filmed, edited and released as a movie, is doing rather well for itself right now on Disney Plus. Now, don't you worry, guys. I'm not going to be giving away any spoilers or anything like that in this particular episode for people that don't know. All you do need to know is that this is an urban-themed musical based on the founding father, Alexander Hamilton. Good, you got that? Excellent, okay. So keep that thought into the back of your mind right now as I introduce you to the HIV Living Tumblr blog. Now, as you may have already pieced together yourself, this blog discusses living with HIV. The 2 individuals behind the blog are Naj, a black lesbian, and Isra, a non-binary Chinese Pakistani human trafficking survivor, and yes, they are both HIV positive, and this blog is to, for the most part, discuss the struggles that they go through and have been through. It sounds like quite the messy backstory, right? Even someone like myself that honestly never really uses Tumblr does find these blog posts rather interesting. The duo built up a fairly decent sized following of well-wishers and people interested in the blog, and as you may expect, a sort of fundraiser was set up. This time over on cash.me. Yes, that's a first for the channel, guys. And this was set up to help with medical bills. Now, you may be asking, what the hell does this all have to do with Hamilton? Well, not only did these guys chat about their traumatic past, they also used the blog to promote their Hamilton fan fiction, where Alexander Hamilton is portrayed as a high school student in the 1980s living with HIV. And that is not the weirdest part of this fan fiction, as it was later discovered that yet another fan fiction was created by them of Hamilton that changed the American founding father Alexander Hamilton into a cannibalistic mermaid. Anyway, enough of the crazy, let's get back to the money raising. Now apparently when donating via cash.me, the money needs to go to an American bank account, something that two individuals who apparently are living in India just wouldn't have. Another Tumblr user actually worked all of this out and messaged them, giving them 3 days to come clean and explain what the hell was going on. And after several messages between them, it was revealed that the black, lesbian and non-binary Chinese, Pakistani, Indian residents living with HIV are actually just a single white American college student that doesn't have HIV and made the whole thing up to help promote their version of the heavily HIV focused Hamilton remake. Now that's one sentence I never thought I would ever need to say. It doesn't get odder than this. Yeah, that's pretty odd, right? What about this? This? There are certain groups of individuals who find great enjoyment out of finding weird imagery like this. And of course, I gotta admit that even I do find these eerie paranormal-esque spooky images rather intriguing too. And where did I find them? Right here on the Sixpence Tumblr blog. Welcome to Sixpence. You'll find interesting content that ranges a wide variety of topics, but our speciality is in creepy, bizarre, horror, paranormal and science. Now for people out there into this sort of stuff, it was actually a pretty popular place to go. She posts pretty much constantly, even to this day, and it's not uncommon for her posts to get hundreds if not thousands of notes, which are essentially likes, retweets and comments for the unknowing. And even though we don't know exactly how many followers she has, I think it's safe to say that she has an enormous amount. Long story short, she's very influential. And here's another Tumblr blog called Sixpence Harms, dedicated to going after every little thing that she does wrong. And where did this all start? Well, to answer that question, we all need to go back to the beginning. It was rather well documented that Sixpence not only put out easily the most disturbing content that I've ever read about, seriously, it's the kind of stuff you click on, you instantly regret, the kind of stuff that you know you're going to remember forever, and sadly there's just no way of stopping that, hence why I didn't go too deep with it and didn't click on the things that I didn't like the sound of. And then of course, you got the plagiarism. It's rather well documented that she stole a lot of her content in the earlier days and simply just didn't give credit. She outright denied this or deleted said posts, of course, even though, like I said, it's all screen grabbed and recorded on this Sixpence Harms Tumblr blog. But of course, plagiarism. This wasn't the worst of what she did. There is in fact a lot going on with this blog, and it's updated fairly frequently, poking holes in a heavy amount of what she's doing. If you guys are interested in the nitty gritty, then go search it up yourself. However, for this particular episode, I'm only going to be focusing on the one thing that's relatable to the Kick Scammer series. Crowdfunding. Well, crowdfunding kind of, because this is Sixpence Hills. This is what propelled her into the wrong kind of spotlight. This was a service that Sixpence started on the 26th of May 2017, asking for between 10 to 15 followers with mental health struggles to pay her $30 a month each so that she could offer an individualized guide to help each of her paying customers. It was an incredibly odd and of course such a disgustingly weird thing to do, especially from someone as controversial as Sixpence. Someone that not only had no professional training and therefore should definitely not be offering this sort of service at all, but on top of that, she was someone whose main hobby was to write fictional horror stories, making mentally ill people out as scary monsters. This entire thing blew up beyond belief. Seriously, go to Tumblr and type in Sixpence Hills and you will find endless amounts of memes mocking Sixpence, which obviously led to her issuing a formal apology. She stated that she was incredibly naive and that she wouldn't start it, but of course on the internet the damage was already done. People were hounding her, trying to find out whatever they could about her and then using it against her. You can guarantee that if there were some skeletons in Sixpence's closet, then the internet was definitely going to find them. And what they did find was so much worse than anybody was expecting. Sixpence kinda dropped the ball in an older Tumblr post that, since all of this blew up, resurfaced, explaining that her uncle has an 8-year-old little girl slave. And then obviously she was getting completely destroyed with angry comments about this from every which way. She simply replied that even though she doesn't agree with it, the slave says that she's happy and it's commonplace in Bangladesh, which is where she's from. This "what you gonna do" sort of attitude really did rub people up the wrong way, even more, which obviously makes the insane amount of hate towards her very understandable. The image that you see right here went viral as of the scripting of this episode. It has close to 700,000 notes because people really like the idea of the concept art of this show, webcomic or whatever, where it tells the story of an asexual character being super outgoing and really flirty, whilst the other pansexual individual character is super socially awkward and apparently has trouble ordering coffee, let alone getting a date. And these two would live together, and of course hilarity would ensue. Probably. Yeah, the picture was pretty popular, and it was because of this that a person called Kai Abernathy got hold of the original artist and asked to turn it into a web series over on Indiegogo. Only needing $600, the campaign actually ended up getting $5,899. And, well, let's cut to the chase, shall we? It never got made. Several years passed with almost no updates whatsoever. However, when the popular Tumblr artist who made the image was actually getting hit with constant requests for updates, they finally came forward with a full explanation. The person behind the campaign, not the picture, was a naive 17-year-old individual called Kit Kat Paddywhack. After receiving all the money, she quickly realised that that money needed to go into a bank account that for whatever reason she didn't have, so she asked a family member to hold on to the money for her, which they agreed to, and while she and her actor class buddies worked on the script for episode 1, that family member, according to Kit Kat Paddywhack's apology, spent all of the money because, and I quote, they were short on their own money and needed it. Well, I suppose that's that then, isn't it? So, how did Kit Kat Paddywhack deal with this? Not very well. Her initial reaction was to tell the other actors and simply delete all knowledge of her existence online for several years, not even replying to the original artist who was after updates. This of course all came out when that original artist explained what was going on, or what they believed was going on, and then this gave Kit Kat Paddywhack the push up the arse to actually show her face and put out the proper apology. She did also explain that refunds can be given if proof was provided, but if this actually went ahead though, is anyone's guess. Right, so this one is pretty horrific. It starts bad and it ends bad. You have been warned. This is Leela Alcorn, a transgender girl from Ohio who at the age of 14 came out to her heavily Christian parents as a transgender girl, and they simply just did not accept it. 2 years later, when pushing to undergo transition treatment, the parents instead pushed Leela into a Christian-based conversion therapy centre who tried to convince her otherwise. Leela then admitted that she was attracted to boys at her school in an attempt to come out as gay, and then used that as a stepping stone to come out as transgender at a later date. However, this plan backfired as her parents removed her from said school and took away all of her social media access. Now, these are some pretty hardcore accusations. How do we know it's all true? Well, sadly, at the age of only 17, Leela stepped out in front of traffic on the Interstate 71 highway about 4 miles from her home in front of a tractor, and committed suicide. Several hours later, a scheduled Tumblr post went live, spilling the beans as to why she took her own life, and as expected, the whole world opened their eyes to this whole tragic story. As a result, the parents were interviewed constantly, news sites talked about the situation at length, and petitions were made to ban conversion therapy, which ultimately pushed Barack Obama to do that very thing. Even though her passing was indeed terrible in every single possible way, the aftermath as a result did lead to an outcry of support that sadly she was just unable to get during her short life. But of course, it wasn't all love and support for Leela after her death. Because Zubat, a popular Tumblr user for the time, decided to set up a GoFundMe named after Leela, literally called the Leela Project. This was a crowdfunder on GoFundMe. It was set up as a non-profit charity that would not only receive donations but spare female clothes too, in order to send care packages of makeup and other feminine things to transgender teens who didn't have enough money to buy this sort of stuff for themselves. Now, this campaign gained $14,518.93 in total, and for this amount, Zubat wanted to send out 120 of these care packages, even though the original claim was to actually send out 500. But whatever. And she also went on to explain that each box was going to be costing her $82. Now, whilst you try and work all of that maths out in your own head, you got to make sure that 7.9% is taken off from the final fee, because that was GoFundMe's fees, and you've also got to take into account that this probably wasn't the total amount earned. Nobody knows for sure exactly how much was raised, as a lot of extra funding and items came from schools and other crowdfunding events. Individuals themselves donated clothes, and most notably a rather well-known clothing brand offered to give up half of the money raised on each sale of a specific line of garments to the cause, and of course it is believed, although I couldn't find any proof of this myself, that this money raised wasn't injected into the GoFundMe total itself. Regardless, let's give Zubat the benefit of the doubt. Her grand total came in at closer to $12,050 after the GoFundMe fees, of course, and if she did send out 120 care packages costing $82 each, that would still leave $2,210 unaccounted for. This, of course, in true Tumblr fashion, led to another Tumblr being created to find out exactly how much these care packages were actually costing. But on top of that, to find out if these care packages ever went out at all, because nobody's come forward to say they've actually received one. And the result was Zubat stating that the charity would be closing down a couple of days later, offering no proof before she did that very thing of anything ever being sent out, and shortly after her Tumblr, Twitter, website, GoFundMe, and no doubt loads of other social media profiles I was unable to find started completely disappearing. There is still, to this day, no proof of these care packages ever going out from what I can find, and Zubat was never heard of again under that name.